It's the middle of the afternoon, 20,000 years ago. You've eaten. The hunt is finished. Nobody's sick. Nothing's on fire, and the sun is still high in the sky. Which means you have, stretching out in front of you, a whole lot of one thing. Time. Empty, unstructured, nothing to do time. And here's the thing. There is no phone. No music you didn't make yourself. No book because writing won't be invented for another 15,000 years. No work to catch up on. Just you, a few other people, a fire, and hours of absolutely nothing. So what did you do? We picture ancient life as a non-stop struggle to survive. But that's mostly wrong, and the truth is, stranger. Our ancestors had loads of free time, which means they had exactly the problem you have on a slow Sunday afternoon. They got bored. And what they did with that boredom might be one of the most important things that ever happened to our species. Because killing boredom may be how we accidentally invented culture itself. Boredom feels like a modern disease. We blame our phones, our short attention spans, our overstimulated brains. But boredom is ancient. It was sitting by that fire long before any of us. And how our ancestors filled those empty hours, that's where music and story and art all quietly came from. Let's kill some prehistoric time. First, forget the idea that early humans worked themselves to the bone just to eat. When anthropologists actually studied living hunter-gatherers, groups like the Hadza in Tanzania, they found something that shocked everyone. These people spent only a few hours a day getting food. The rest? Free time. The anthropologist Marshall Salins gave it a name that flipped the whole story on its head. He called hunter-gatherers the original affluent society. Not rich in stuff, rich in time. Think about what that means. Farming, offices, the 40-hour week. Those made us busier, not our ancestors. For most of human history, the average person had more downtime than you do. Which sounds like paradise, until you remember there was nothing to fill it with. No entertainment industry, no infinite scroll. Just hours and other people and your own restless mind. So the first great human problem wasn't just, how do we survive? It was also, quietly, okay, now what? The number one answer, then and now, was each other. Watch a troop of chimpanzees with time on their hands and they groom, picking through each other's fur for hours. It's not really about cleanliness, it's about bonding. It calms them, it builds alliances, it says we're okay, you and me. Our ancestors did the same. And then we added something chimps can't do. We talked. The psychologist Robin Dunbar argues that language may have evolved partly as a kind of grooming at scale, a way to bond with more people than you could ever physically groom. And what do humans mostly talk about, given the chance? Each other. Gossip. Who did what? Who's sleeping with whom? Who can't be trusted? It sounds petty, but gossip is social glue. It's how a group keeps track of itself. So a huge chunk of ancient free time looked exactly like a huge chunk of yours. Sitting around with people, talking about nothing. The oldest entertainment on Earth is other people. But the real magic didn't happen in the afternoon. It happened after dark. Here's a genuinely beautiful piece of research. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years with the Juhonsi people of the Kalahari. And she did something simple. She recorded what people talked about by day versus by night. In daylight, the conversation was practical. Complaints, planning, arguments, gossip. Boring, useful stuff. But at night, around the fire, everything changed. The firelight talk was different. It was mostly stories. Myths, adventures, the deeds of ancestors, journeys to far-off places, the spirit world. By her count, the vast majority of nighttime conversation was storytelling. Think about what fire actually did for us. It didn't just cook food and scare off predators. It stole hours back from the darkness. It created the evening. And in that warm, flickering, unproductive time, when you couldn't hunt or gather or work, the human imagination had somewhere to go. The campfire may be the first entertainment device our species ever built. Long before screens, we sat in a circle and stared at a glowing light in the dark and let someone tell us a story. And if that image does something to you, you're going to like this channel. It's one long fireside story about where we came from. Subscribe and pull up a seat. Now, back to the dark. Talk turns into story. And story, given enough boredom, turns into art. Because at some point, someone got restless enough to make something for no survival reason at all. In a cave in Germany, archaeologists found a flute carved from the wing bone of a vulture. It's around 40,000 years old. One of the oldest musical instruments on Earth. Somebody, 40,000 years ago, sat in the firelight and decided the night needed music. And it wasn't just sound. On cave walls from France to Indonesia, our ancestors painted horses, lions, hunts, their own hands pressed in ochre. Some of it is over 40,000 years old. None of it was necessary. You can't eat a painting. It didn't keep anyone warm. It was made because a human being, with time on their hands and a restless mind, wanted to make something beautiful, or tell a story, or leave a mark that said, "I was here." That's the astonishing part. The same empty hours that make you tap your fingers and reach for your phone. Our ancestors filled them with the first songs, the first pictures, the first stories humans ever made. Boredom didn't just get killed, it got turned into culture. Now, not everyone was carving flutes and painting masterpieces. A lot of killing time looked much lazier than that, and just as human. Kids, then as now, played. Give a child a stick, a stone, and a patch of dirt, and they'll invent a game out of thin air, chasing, wrestling, pretend hunting, copying the grown-ups. Play is so deep in us that we share it with wolves and otters and crows. It's far older than our species. Ancient children didn't need toys handed to them. The whole world was the toy. And the adults? A lot of the time, they simply rested, napped in the shade, sat and watched the fire burn down to embers. Did nothing at all and felt no guilt about it, because being productive hadn't been invented yet. There was no clock to feel behind, no notifications, nowhere to be. That ability to sit in an empty afternoon and just be unstimulated, unbothered, doing absolutely nothing, is something our ancestors had in enormous supply, and something most of us have quietly lost. To them, it wasn't mindfulness or a wellness trend. It was just an ordinary Tuesday. Which flips the whole question around. We treat boredom like a problem to be solved. But what if boredom was the point? That restless, itchy, I need something to happen feeling is a kind of engine. It pushes you toward novelty, to try, to make, to wonder, to wonder. The same drive that made someone carve a flute is the drive that made someone paint a wall, invent a game, ask what the stars were, and walk over the next hill just to see what was there. A perfectly content animal never needs to create anything. We are not perfectly content. We get bored. And out of that boredom came music, myth, art, curiosity, maybe even the wandering that carried us across the whole planet. We are, in a very real way, the descendants of the bored. Which brings us, uncomfortably, to you. Because we did something no ancestor could have dreamed of. We finally defeated boredom. Completely. You will likely never again sit in true, empty, unstimulated silence. There's always a screen, always a feed, always something to fill the gap the very instant it opens. But look at what that boredom used to produce. Daydreaming, making things, long, slow, face-to-face talk that turned into stories. Our ancestors filled empty time with each other and with their own imaginations. We fill it, mostly alone, with glass. And it's worth asking, honestly. They had nothing and turned their boredom into art. We have everything and turn it into another hour of scrolling. So which of us is really more bored? So, how did ancient humans kill boredom? They didn't, really. They let it do its work. They sat in the afternoon with nothing to do, and they talked. They gathered at the fire when the sun went down, and they told stories into the dark. They got restless, and they carved, and painted and sang and built out of all that empty time, the first culture our species ever had. So the next time you feel it, that little jolt of boredom, that empty moment, and your hand reaching for your phone before you've even decided to, stop for 1 second. Because that exact feeling is ancient. Your ancestors felt it around a fire 20,000 years ago. And what they chose to do with it, instead of filling it, is the reason you have music and stories and art at all. They were bored too. It might be the most creative thing that ever happened to us.